I never imagined my own family would betray me like this, yet here I stand in the back of this suffocating courtroom, watching my father's face contort with rage as Mr. Jenkins reads grandfather's will. The mahogany-paneled walls seem to close in with each word, and the musty air grows thicker with tension. My cousin Sophie catches my eye from across the room, then quickly looks away. The Carter family ancestral home, including all contents and surrounding property, is hereby bequeathed to my granddaughter, Emma Carter. My heart pounds against my ribs. The room erupts in harsh whispers, a storm of disbelief and anger. Dad's neck flushes crimson as he whips around to glare at me. Uncle Jason grips his shoulder, but his own face betrays the same shock. This can't be right. Dad's voice cuts through the chaos. There must be some mistake. Mr. Jenkins adjusts his wire-rimmed glasses, unfazed. The will is quite clear, Mr. Carter. Your father was explicit in his wishes. I grip the back of the wooden bench, steadying myself. The room spins with fragments of memories, last summer's heated argument filtering through the study door as I stood frozen in the hallway. Grandfather's voice, usually so gentle, sharp with anger. I know what you're doing with the company, Robert. Did you think I wouldn't figure it out? Dad's response had been cold, calculated. You're an old man living in the past. Business isn't done your way anymore. Money laundering isn't business, Grandfather had shot back. It's criminal. The memory shifts to 3 months ago, just weeks before Grandfather's death. I'd found him in his study, surrounded by stacks of papers, his face gray with exhaustion. When I'd asked if he was okay, he'd gripped my hand with surprising strength. Promise me you'll protect it, Emma. The house, the legacy, all of it. Don't let them destroy everything I've built. I hadn't understood then. I do now. Emma. Dad's voice yanks me back to the present as he strides toward me, his expensive shoes clicking against the hardwood floor. We need to discuss this immediately. There's nothing to discuss. My voice comes out stronger than I feel. Grandfather made his choice. You don't understand what's at stake here. His words carry a threat beneath their surface. Uncle Jason hovers behind him, conflict etched in the lines around his eyes. The house needs to be sold. The market is perfect right now, and I have buyers lined up. Another memory flashes. Dad's construction company office late one night last month, voices carrying through the thin walls as I'd waited to drop off some paperwork. A man I didn't know speaking in urgent tones. The feds are starting to ask questions, Robert. We need that money cleaned, and we need it fast. My stomach churns. You mean your money laundering operation needs the cash? The words escape before I can stop them, quiet enough that only he and Uncle Jason can hear. Dad's face pales. Watch your mouth, he hisses. You have no idea what you're talking about. But I do. I've seen the signs for months. The mysterious meetings, the shell companies, the way money disappears and reappears through his construction projects. Grandfather saw it too. That's why he did this. The house isn't for sale. I straighten my spine, meeting his gaze. Not now, not ever. You ungrateful little... Dad lunges forward, but Uncle Jason pulls him back. Robert not here, Jason mutters, his eyes darting around the crowded courtroom. I step backward, my heel catching on the carpet. The other relatives watch with barely concealed interest, vultures waiting to see who'll draw blood first. The weight of their stares presses down on my shoulders. Miss Carter. Mr. Jenkins's voice cuts through the tension. There's one more stipulation. The property cannot be sold without your explicit written consent. Your grandfather was quite insistent on this point. Dad's jaw clenches so tight I can see the muscle jump. This isn't over, he growls, turning on his heel. Uncle Jason follows, but not before giving me one last look. Is it warning or sympathy in his eyes? I remain rooted to the spot as the room slowly empties, my mind racing. The house, grandfather's sanctuary, our family's legacy, he left it to me. Not to Dad, not to Uncle Jason, but to me. The responsibility settles heavy in my chest. As I gather my things, my hands trembling slightly, a question burns in my mind. How far will they go to seize what isn't theirs? The answer terrifies me, but I won't back down. Grandfather trusted me with this for a reason. Looking at the will in my hands, I know this is just the beginning. They won't stop until they get what they want, or until I stop them. And right now, I'm the only thing standing between them and everything Grandfather tried to protect. Tell me what you see. I lean forward in Olivia's office chair, my heart thundering as she examines the documents spread across her mahogany desk. The afternoon sun streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, catching dust motes that dance around us like tiny conspirators. Olivia adjusts her wire-rimmed glasses and holds the sale agreement under a digital scanner, her dark eyes narrowing. The pressure points are inconsistent. She taps the screen, zooming in on my supposed signature. See how the lines waver here? And here? She traces the air above two spots where the ink seems to hesitate. Your authentic signatures are more fluid. My stomach clenches as I compare the forged document to my driver's license signature. The forgery is too good. Someone spent serious money to make this happen. Dad's getting desperate. Desperate enough to commit fraud. Olivia's fingers fly across her keyboard, pulling up a digital analysis. Red markers highlight the discrepancies, damning evidence appearing in stark relief. This won't hold up in court. The house is still yours, Emma. Your grandfather made sure of that. A memory surfaces. Grandfather in his study, gripping my hand that last time. Promise me you'll protect it. Asterisk he knew. He must have known Dad would try something like this. Miss Martinez? Olivia's assistant appears in the doorway. Your 3 o'clock is here. Give me 5 minutes. Olivia gathers the documents into a folder, her movements precise and controlled. Emma, we have what we need to fight this. But you should know men like your father when they're backed into a corner. She lets the warning hang in the air. I nod, gathering my purse. I know. Thank you, Olivia. The cafe is nearly empty when I meet Sophie an hour later. She's chosen a corner table, far from the few other patrons. Her hands wrap around an untouched latte, knuckles white with tension. I got your text. She glances over her shoulder before continuing. About the forged documents? Dad's trying to force through a sale. I slide into the seat across from her, keeping my voice low. But that's not why I asked you here. I need to know what else you've seen, Sophie. What else you've heard. Color drains from her face. I shouldn't. Please. I reach across the table, stopping short of touching her trembling hands. You're the only one inside the company who might help me. I know you've noticed things. Sophie's eyes dart to the door again before she pulls out her phone. 2 weeks ago, I was working late. That Uncle Roberthy didn't know I was still there. I recorded this. She slides the phone across the table, an email displayed on the screen. My breath catches as I read. The message is coded, but clear enough. Timeline accelerated. Buyers expect clean transfer by end of month. Jay has arrangements in place for secondary processing asterisk. I is Uncle Jason. Sophie nods. There's more. Check the attachment. I open it, and my heart nearly stops. Account numbers. Shell companies. A complex web of transactions, all flowing through Dad's construction projects. The scale of it staggers me. Delete it, I whisper, pushing the phone back. Right now, and Sophie. I meet her eyes. Be careful. Don't let them know you've seen this. She nods, fingers shaking as she erases the evidence. What are you going to do? I think of the house, of Grandfather's study filled with papers I haven't had time to go through, of his last desperate warning. There's something in the house, I say slowly, pieces clicking into place. Something he left for me to find. That's why Dad's pushing so hard to sell it now. Emma. Sophie's voice drops even lower. I got an email yesterday, anonymous. It said there's proof in the house, hidden somewhere. She swallows hard. Proof of everything. My mind races. Grandfather was meticulous, always 3 steps ahead. He wouldn't have left me defenseless against this. The house itself must hold the key evidence that could stop Dad's operation cold. I stand, my chair scraping against the floor. I have to go. Be careful, Sophie calls after me, fear threading through her words. Uncle Robert, he's not just desperate. He's dangerous. The drive home is a blur of strategy and memory. As darkness falls, I park in the garage and slip into the house through the kitchen door. The study waits upstairs, shadowy and still. Somewhere in this room, Grandfather left his final weapon against betrayal. I just have to find it. On a dusty shelf, his laptop sits untouched since his death. My hands tremble as I lift it, power it on. Sophie's warning echoes in my head. Asterisk, he's dangerous. Asterisk, but so is the truth, and somewhere in this house, that truth is waiting to be found. The anonymous email Sophie forwarded glows on the screen. I read it again, slower this time, parsing each cryptic line. Check the heart carved in the garden wall. Count 3 stones up, 2 across. The drawer that never opened he kept the key behind the loose brick. Asterisk. My pulse quickens. The carved heart, I remember it from childhood. Initials etched by some long-ago Carter. And grandfather's study drawer, the one he'd always kept locked. I'd assumed he'd taken its secrets to his grave. I grab a notepad, transcribing the message with trembling fingers. Each detail seems deliberately placed. A breadcrumb trail grandfather designed for me to follow. The carved heart would lead to the key, and the key. A floorboard creaks somewhere in the house. I freeze, finger hovering over the print button. The sound came from downstairs, too heavy to be settling wood. Someone else is here. Quickly, I hit print and close the laptop. The printer whirs to life, too loud in the silence. I snatch the paper, fold it, and slip it into my pocket. Another creak, closer now. Footsteps on the stairs. My heart hammers against my ribs as I edge toward the study door. One question burns in my mind, urgent and terrifying. What evidence did grandfather hide that's worth breaking in to find? The footsteps reach the landing. I kill the desk lamp and press myself against the wall, praying the darkness is enough to hide me. Tomorrow I'll follow grandfather's trail of clues. But first, I have to survive tonight. The warehouse stench of mildew and rust fills my lungs as I crouch behind a stack of rotting wooden crates. Olivia and Sophie huddle beside me in the darkness, our breathing shallow and controlled. Through a gap in the crates, a slice of fluorescent light illuminates Dad's face as he paces the concrete floor 20 feet away. Even from here, I can see the sheen of sweat on his forehead. "Time's running out," he snaps at the shadows gathered around him. "The feds are breathing down our necks, and that little brat," the word twists like a knife in my chest, "is refusing to cooperate." A gravelly voice responds from the darkness. "You assured us this would be handled cleanly, Robert." The speaker steps into the light. Vincent Delgado, his expensive suit, a stark contrast to the decay surrounding us. Instead, we've got whispers of an investigation and a paper trail a mile long. My hand tightens around the small recording device in my pocket. Olivia touches my arm, a silent reminder to stay still. "I can fix this," Dad insists, but there's a tremor in his voice I've never heard before. "The house sale will cover everything once it's done." "And how exactly do you plan to make that happen?" Vincent's words drip with menace. "Your daughter holds the keys now, doesn't she?" A muscle twitches in Dad's jaw. "Leave Emma to me. I've got the documents ready. With or without her cooperation, that sale is happening within 48 hours. Sophie stiffens beside me. I don't need to see her face to know what she's thinking. The same thing I am. Forged papers. He's planning to fake my consent. The meeting continues, voices growing more heated as they discuss shell companies and offshore accounts. Each word is another nail in the coffin of the man I thought my father was. Olivia's surveillance equipment captures it all, but the real evidence is branded into my memory. The casual way they discuss fraud, the calculated plans to steal what's rightfully mine. Later, in our makeshift command center, an abandoned office space 3 blocks away, Olivia sorts through the intercepted communications while Sophie paces nervously behind her desk. "He's moving faster than we thought," Olivia says, fingers flying over her keyboard. "Look at these timestamps. The sale documents are already being processed." I lean over her shoulder, scanning the decoded messages. "How long do we have?" "Hours, maybe." She points to a string of encrypted text. "They've got a buyer lined up for tomorrow morning once those papers are filed." "We can't let that happen." My voice is steel, surprising even me. Grandfather trusted me to protect this legacy. I won't let them destroy everything he built. Sophie stops pacing. "Emma, maybe we should talk to Uncle Robert first. Try to reason with him." The memory of his face in the warehouse, cold, calculating, already planning to forge my signature, hardens my resolve. He's had his chance to do the right thing. Now it's time for a different approach. 20 minutes later, I stand in grandfather's study, the weight of generations pressing down through the darkness. The house creaks around me, familiar sounds that used to bring comfort. Now they feel like warnings. The door opens. Dad's silhouette fills the frame, his shoulders tight with barely contained rage. "You wanted to see me?" His voice is carefully controlled, but I can hear the storm brewing underneath. Yes. I move to grandfather's desk, place my hands on its worn surface. We need to talk about the forged documents you're planning to file tomorrow morning. The silence stretches between us, thick with decades of lies. Through the study window, storm clouds gather on the horizon, echoing the darkness in my father's eyes. You have no idea what you're talking about. But there's a flicker of something in his expression. Fear, maybe. Or recognition that his carefully constructed world is beginning to crumble. Don't I? I reach into my pocket, withdraw the recording device. Would you like to hear what Vincent Delgado had to say about it? All color drains from his face. Behind him, Uncle Jason appears in the doorway, his expression caught between loyalty and dawning horror as the truth of our family's corruption finally comes into focus. You stupid girl. Dad's voice trembles with fury. Do you have any idea what you've done? The people you're dealing with are criminals? The word rings through the study. Like you? He lunges forward, hands slamming onto the desk between us. Everything I've done has been for this family. Number. The certainty in my voice stops him cold. Everything you've done has been for yourself. The money laundering, the fraud. You're destroying everything grandfather built. Uncle Jason steps forward, his face ashen. Robert, maybe we should. Stay out of this. Dad whirls on him. Unless you want them looking into your involvement too. The threat hangs in the air, but something has shifted in Uncle Jason's eyes. I see the moment his loyalty fractures, splintering under the weight of too many lies. After they leave, Dad's threats still echoing off the wood-paneled walls, I sink into grandfather's chair, exhausted. Sophie and Olivia hover nearby, their presence a silent comfort as I process what just happened. But something catches my eye, a slight irregularity in the bookshelf behind the desk. Standing, I run my fingers along the spine of the old leather-bound books. There, a gap, almost invisible unless you're looking for it. My heart pounds as I carefully remove the loose panel. Inside the hidden compartment, a weathered journal rests atop a stack of documents. My hands shake as I lift it out, recognizing grandfather's precise handwriting. The first page reads like a confession, a record of everything he discovered about Dad's illegal operations. Emma? Sophie's voice is barely a whisper. What is it? I clutch the journal to my chest, mind racing with the possibilities this evidence represents. It's exactly what we need. My voice catches. Grandfather knew. He knew everything, and he left us the proof to stop them. The study falls silent except for the distant rumble of thunder. In my hands, the weight of the journal feels like both a burden and a weapon. The question isn't just what secrets these pages contain, it's how far I'm willing to go to use them. The crystal chandeliers of the Riverside Conference Hall cast dancing shadows across the faces of Metro City's elite. I adjust my grip on grandfather's leather-bound journal, its presence in my clutch bag both a comfort and a weapon. Across the room, Olivia Martinez catches my eye and gives an almost imperceptible nod. Everything is in place. Ladies and gentlemen, Dad's voice carries across the crowded hall, smooth as aged whiskey. It gives me great pleasure to announce the sale of the historic Carter estate to distinguished developer Ethan Reynolds. My heart pounds against my ribs as Reynolds steps forward, his custom Italian suit and perfectly coiffed silver hair screaming old money. But I know better. 3 days of digging through grandfather's records revealed the truth about Reynolds' empire of shell companies and laundered funds. The Carter estate has been in our family for generations, Dad continues, his rehearsed speech dripping with false sentiment. While change is never easy, neither is fraud. My voice cuts through the murmuring crowd like a blade. Every head turns as I step forward, grandfather's journal clutched in my trembling hands. Or money laundering, for that matter. Dad's practiced smile falters for just a fraction of a second. Emma, sweetheart, this isn't the time or place for. Actually, it's exactly the time. I open the journal to a marked page, my voice steadier than my racing pulse. Would you like me to read what grandfather wrote about your creative accounting practices? Or should we skip straight to the forged documents you used to try and circumvent his will? The crowd's whispers grow louder. Reynolds takes a step back from Dad, his carefully maintained facade cracking. From her corner, Olivia pulls out her phone, no doubt alerting our contacts in law enforcement. You ungrateful little. Dad starts forward, but freezes as Sophie emerges from the crowd, a USB drive held high. "The encrypted emails are all here," Sophie announces, her voice shaking but determined. "Every transaction, every shell company, every penny laundered through the construction projects." The room erupts in chaos. I catch fragments of shocked conversations, Carter construction, federal investigation. All this time. Dad's neck flushes crimson as his criminal associates begin to edge away, distancing themselves from the impending fallout. Uncle Jason hovers uncertainly at the edge of the crowd, conflict etched in every line of his face. "You have no idea what you're doing," Dad snarls, closing the distance between us. "The people I'm involved with are currently being investigated by the FBI, I cut in, keeping my voice low. "Did you really think Grandfather wouldn't leave evidence? That he wouldn't protect his legacy?" A phone rings, cutting through the tension. Olivia answers, her face lighting up with grim satisfaction. "Detective Hayes," she says, loud enough for those nearby to hear. "Yes, we're all still here at Riverside Conference Hall. You're 5 minutes out? Perfect." The color drains from Dad's face. He looks around wildly, but his allies have already begun to scatter. Reynolds is nowhere to be seen. Even Uncle Jason has disappeared into the crowd. I grip the journal tighter, feeling the weight of Grandfather's trust, of his faith in me. The tide of power has turned just as he planned, just as I promised him it would. "It's over, Dad," I say softly, watching his empire crumble in real time. "Grandfather knew what you were doing with the company. He made sure I would have everything I needed to stop you." Across the room, I catch glimpses of dark suits and badges as law enforcement begins to filter in through the side entrances. Dad sees them too. His face contorts with a mixture of rage and fear that makes him look like a stranger. "This isn't over," he growls, but the threat in his voice rings hollow now. I think of the house, Grandfather's sanctuary, our family's true legacy. Not a fortress for laundered money or a pawn in Dad's schemes, but a home built on integrity and trust. Everything Grandfather fought to protect, everything he entrusted to me. "You're right," I say, standing my ground as Detective Hayes approaches. "For you, it's just beginning." The courtroom buzzes with whispers as Dad strides toward the podium, his Armani suit a sharp contrast to his unraveling composure. Camera flashes punctuate the tension like lightning before a storm. I grip the edge of the wooden table, steadying myself as his words slice through the air. My daughter is young, naive. His voice carries that familiar patronizing tone that used to make me shrink into myself. Not anymore. She doesn't understand the complexities of business, of family legacy. If she continues down this path making these wild accusations, he turns to face me directly, eyes glinting with barely contained rage. There will be consequences that can't be undone. The threat hangs heavy in the air. A reporter's pen scratches against paper somewhere behind me. I catch Sophie's eye across the room. She gives me the slightest nod, and something in my chest steadies. "I have evidence," Dad continues, "of certain indiscretions that would be devastating if made public. Emma, please." His voice softens, dripping with false concern. "Don't force my hand." Olivia Martinez, my attorney, shifts beside me. We've prepared for this moment, anticipated every move. The weight of Grandfather's journal presses against my side where it's tucked into my briefcase, along with the stack of financial records that will shatter Dad's carefully constructed facade. I stand, and the room falls silent. "You're right about one thing," I say, my voice carrying clear and strong. "I am your daughter, which means I learned from the best about keeping receipts." Olivia steps forward, nodding to the court clerk. The projector hums to life, and the first document appears on the screen, a detailed spreadsheet tracking money movements through shell companies, each transaction highlighted in damning red. This is a record of funds flowing through Carter Construction's subsidiary accounts. Olivia explains, her professional tone masking the bombshell she's dropping. Note the pattern of deposits and withdrawals, each carefully structured to avoid detection. Dad's face drains of color. Uncle Jason, seated in the front row, leans forward with widening eyes. "But that's just the beginning," I continue, pulling out Grandfather's leather-bound journal. "This contains detailed observations of every suspicious transaction, every late-night meeting, every shell company created over the past 5 years. Grandfather didn't just suspect what you were doing, Dad. He knew. He documented everything. The journal trembles slightly in my hands, not from fear, but from the surge of adrenaline coursing through me. Dad takes a step forward, his composed mask cracking. "You're making a mistake," he hisses, low enough that only those closest can hear. "Everything I did was to protect this family's future." "Number," I meet his gaze. "Everything you did was to protect yourself." Olivia advances to the next slide. Copies of forged documents bearing my supposed signature, authorizing the sale of the house. The evidence we've gathered laid bare for all to see. Gasps ripple through the courtroom as she methodically explains each piece. The forensic analysis proving the forgery, the intercepted emails discussing the scheme, the network of offshore accounts waiting to receive laundered funds. Dad's criminal partners shift uncomfortably in their seats. I recognize some of them from those suspicious meetings at the construction office. Men in expensive suits who now look like they're calculating their fastest escape routes. "Miss Carter," Judge Reynolds' voice cuts through the tension. "These are serious allegations. Mr. Carter, do you wish to respond to this evidence?" Dad's jaw clenches so tight I can see the muscle jump. The same tell he had that day in the study with Grandfather. His silence speaks volumes. "Your Honor," Olivia continues, "we have Detective Marcus Hayes of the Financial Crimes Unit present and prepared to testify about the ongoing investigation into these matters." Something snaps in Dad's eyes. He spins toward Uncle Jason, who's already half rising from his seat. "You told them," he snarls. "You spineless." "Order!" Judge Reynolds' gavel crashes down. But it's too late. The carefully maintained veneer of the respected business leader crumbles as Dad lunges toward his brother. Courthouse security moves in swiftly, and I watch my father, the man I once admired, once feared, being restrained as Detective Hayes approaches with handcuffs at the ready. The cameras flash faster now, capturing every moment of his undoing. I remain standing, my heart pounding, but my voice steady as I speak one final time. "The house stays in the family, Dad. Just not your version of it." Uncle Jason rises slowly from his seat, his face ashen. The entire courtroom holds its breath as he makes his way to the center of the room. His hands shake as he straightens his tie. "I need to make a statement," he says, voice rough. "About the forgery. About everything." His eyes meet mine, filled with a mixture of shame and relief. "Emma's telling the truth. I helped Robert create those documents. I watched him build this whole scheme, and I did nothing to stop it." Sophie steps forward next, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. "I have testimony as well, Your Honor. Dates, times, conversations I witnessed. The threats made against Emma when she refused to comply." The room erupts in chaos as Detective Hayes moves forward, officially placing Dad under arrest. The charges ring out clear and damning. Money laundering, fraud, conspiracy, forgery. Each word, another nail in the coffin of his reputation. I watch as they lead him away, his shoulders finally slumping in defeat. The man who once towered over my world now seems smaller somehow. Behind me, I hear the rapid-fire clicks of camera shutters, documenting every moment of this public reckoning. The judge calls for order, but I barely hear him. My mind is already racing ahead to what comes next. The questions that will need answering. The legacy that will need rebuilding. Grandfather's words echo in my memory. "Promise me you'll protect it, Emma. The house, the legacy, all of it." I did, Grandfather. But standing here in the aftermath, watching the family I knew crumble and reshape itself, I can't help but wonder, what will rise from these ashes? The house is safe, the truth is out, but the real work, the work of healing, of rebuilding, that's only just beginning. Dawn spills through the restored stained glass windows, painting the foyer in fragments of amber and sapphire. I run my fingers along the freshly polished banister, breathing in the scent of lemon oil and history. The grandfather clock in the corner, the one that marked so many Carter family moments, ticks steadily, a heartbeat restored. "Miss Carter?" Jorge, the restoration supervisor, approaches with a tablet in hand. The last of the historical photographs have been mounted in the East Wing gallery. I follow him down the hallway, where dozens of black and white photos now line the walls in gleaming frames. There's Grandfather at 20, standing proud in his army uniform. Another shows him breaking ground on his first development project, the one that launched the family business legitimately, before Dad corrupted it. My throat tightens as I spot a photo I'd almost forgotten. Grandfather and me in his study, heads bent over his collection of rare first editions. I was 12 then, oblivious to the storm brewing in our family. The archival glass will protect them from UV damage, Jorge explains, but his voice fades into background noise as memory washes over me. 3 months ago, I stood in this same spot, watching federal agents escort Dad out in handcuffs. His face had been a mask of fury and disbelief, the expression of a man who never imagined his schemes would unravel. The evidence in Grandfather's journal had been irrefutable, each detailed entry revealing another layer of Dad's money laundering operation. The memory dissolves as Olivia's heels click against the hardwood floor. Everything's official, she announces, waving a stack of documents. The title's clear and the preservation trust is ironclad. No one can ever force a sale of this property again. Thank you. The words feel inadequate for everything my attorney has done, but she waves off my gratitude with a warm smile. Sophie appears in the doorway, a box of old photographs in her arms. Found these in the attic. Thought they might fit the gallery. My cousin, no, my friend now, sets the box down carefully. It's amazing in here, Emma. Uncle Frank would be proud. The three of us move to the living room, where morning light streams through newly restored windows. The antique furniture, each piece chosen by Grandfather over decades, gleams with fresh polish. On the mantel, his collection of vintage fountain pens catches the light. I'd found them tucked away in his study, along with the journal that changed everything. Hard to believe this was the same house, Sophie muses, sinking into a leather armchair. Remember how dark it felt during the will reading? Now it's like it can breathe again. I finish, understanding exactly what she means. Olivia spreads the trust documents on the coffee table. The community outreach program is ready to launch whenever you are. 3 local families have already applied for the educational grants. My chest swells with something that feels like purpose. The house will never again be a fortress of secrets and lies. Instead, it's becoming what Grandfather always envisioned, a place of learning, growth, and second chances. Through the bay window, I watch volunteers preparing the garden for tomorrow's community gathering. They're planting wildflowers in beds where nothing grew for years, the colors a riot of purple, yellow, and white against rich soil. One bed has been reserved for the rose bushes Grandfather loved, the ones Dad ordered removed years ago. They'll bloom again next spring. The Grandfather clock chimes 10, its sound resonating through rooms no longer choked with tension and deceit. Each note feels like confirmation, like Grandfather's voice saying, "This is what I protected it for. This is what I knew you could do." Asterisk. I move to the window, pressing my palm against the cool glass. The morning sun illuminates every corner of the property, from the restored Victorian greenhouse to the winding gravel paths. No more shadows, no more secrets, just light, possibility, and the steady foundation of truth that Grandfather helped me build. Ready for tomorrow? Sophie asks, joining me at the window. I nod, watching a monarch butterfly drift through the garden. Ready for everything that comes next.
I stand in the center of my kitchen, fingers tracing the cool granite countertop I've dreamed about for years. The afternoon sunlight streams through windows I chose myself, casting honey-colored patterns across hardwood floors that took me 3 months to select. 10 years of 60-hour work weeks, of canceled vacations and brown bag lunches, all crystallized into this moment, my 4-bedroom colonial on Maple Street. $650,000. The price tag that made my colleagues gasp when I signed the papers last month. The number that represents a decade of overtime and sacrifice. My sanctuary, my achievement, mine alone. I take a deep breath, savoring the lingering scent of fresh paint and new beginnings. In an hour, friends and colleagues will arrive for the housewarming party. For now, this quiet moment belongs just to me. The doorbell shatters my peace. Too early. I smooth my dress and check my watch nearly an hour before anyone should arrive. Through the peephole, my stomach drops. My father, Richard, stands on the porch, his arm around Linda, my stepmother of 20 years. Behind them, Vanessa hovers, her practiced smile already in place. I hadn't invited them. Hadn't even told them I'd moved. My fingers fumble with the lock, muscle memory from childhood taking over. Always answer when Richard calls. The door swings open. "Sienna," Richard booms, as if we speak weekly instead of twice a year. His hug is stiff, perfunctory. He smells of the same aftershave from my childhood, the scent that used to mean safety before it became the smell of goodbye. Quite a place you've got here. We drove by last week and saw the moving truck, Linda explains, not waiting for an invitation before stepping inside. Her gaze sweeps the entryway, cataloging, assessing. So much house for just one person. Vanessa follows, trailing expensive perfume and judgment. God, Sienna, you must be making a fortune these days. Her eyes measure the space like she's calculating square footage. When did finance get so lucrative? I've been saving for a long time, I say, the understatement of my life. Would you like some coffee? The kitchen is this way. Richard follows me, immediately zeroing in on the appliances. Sub-Zero refrigerator, Viking range, you didn't cut corners, did you? His tone makes it an accusation rather than a compliment. What's the property value in this neighborhood? Dad, I say, the word still awkward in my mouth after all these years. Why don't we catch up first? I haven't seen you since Christmas. But Richard is already opening cabinets, peering into my pantry. Linda joins him, whispering something I can't quite hear. I catch only the tail end. Told you she was holding out on us. My chest tightens. I turn away, busying myself with coffee preparation while memory crashes over me like a wave. 10-year-old me pressed against the living room window, watching Richard's car disappear down our street. My small hands leaving smudges on the glass, as I waited for him to change his mind, to turn around, to choose me. The birthday cards that stopped coming after Linda entered the picture. The Christmas I spent alone with Mom, when Richard chose Vanessa's dance recital instead. Mom working 2 jobs to keep our modest apartment while I learned to cook dinner and do my own laundry. The night I promised myself I'd never need anyone again. Sienna, earth to Sienna. Vanessa snaps her fingers in front of my face. I asked if there's a bedroom on the first floor. No, I reply, returning to the present. All 4 bedrooms are upstairs. 4 bedrooms, Linda repeats, exchanging a look with Richard that makes my skin crawl. My goodness, planning for the future, are we? Before I can answer, the doorbell rings again. Relief floods through me as colleagues begin arriving, filling my house with genuine warmth and congratulations. I circulate, accepting housewarming gifts and showing off the renovations I've planned. But Richard, cornering me in the kitchen an hour later, ruins any sense of celebration. We need to talk about your finances, he says, voice low. You must be making twice what you reported on your taxes last year to afford this place. I nearly dropped the plate I'm holding. Excuse me? Your sister is having some trouble with housing right now, he continues, ignoring my shock. Her landlord is selling the building and with the baby coming. Vanessa's pregnant? This is the first I've heard of it. Almost 3 months along, they need a stable situation and quickly. The way he says it, the entitlement in his tone makes my blood run cold. I notice Vanessa across the room, her hand not on her stomach like most expectant mothers, but on my living room wall, as if measuring it for her own furniture. Emma from accounting appears at my elbow, sensing my discomfort. Sienna, can you help me with the wine? I can't find the opener. Her eyes telegraph understanding as she leads me away from Richard. For the rest of the party, colleagues create strategic interruptions whenever my family approaches. By the time the last guest leaves, Richard, Linda, and Vanessa have already gone, but the cloud of their presence lingers like smoke. I lock the door behind my final guest, double-checking the deadbolt. Something tells me I should install a security system sooner rather than later. 1 week later, I'm sorting mail when my phone lights up. Richard's name on the caller ID sends a chill through me. For a moment, I consider letting it go to voicemail, but old habits die hard. Hello? Sienna. His voice is falsely warm, the tone he uses when he wants something. We need to talk about family responsibility. I sink into my sofa, suddenly exhausted. What's on your mind, Dad? What he says next stops my heart. It's about Vanessa and the baby, and your house. I think it's time you did the right thing for your family. I slam my car door, keys still dangling from my fingers, and freeze. My world tilts sideways. My possessions, the carefully chosen furniture, the neatly labeled boxes, The life I've built lay scattered across my front lawn like debris after a storm. A floral sofa cushion rests against my mailbox. My grandmother's antique lamp teeters on the edge of the sidewalk. Books I've collected since college form uneven towers on the grass. Two men in moving company uniforms haul my dining room table through the front door. Stop! I sprint across the lawn, designer heels sinking into soft earth. What are you doing with my things? The shorter mover sets down his end of the table. Ma'am, we have orders to clear the property. Orders? From whom? This is my house. My voice rises and I feel the weight of eyes watching from neighboring windows. Mrs. Wilson peers from behind her curtains. Across the street, Mr. Peterson stands on his porch, openly staring. The mover produces a clipboard. Work order signed right here. Removal requested by homeowner Richard Matthews. I snatch the paper from his hands. My father's name leaps from the page, along with what appears to be my signature accrued forgery that doesn't even capture the loop of my S's. White-hot rage burns away the shock. I march toward my open front door, stepping over scattered picture frames and shoeboxes. Ma'am, if there's a dispute, the mover calls after me. There's no dispute. This is my house. I don't look back. I push through my own front door and collide with a reality that doesn't make sense. Strangers move through my sanctuary, like they own it. A man I don't recognize measures my windows. Two women discuss paint colors in my kitchen. And there, in the center of my living room, stand Richard and Vanessa. My stepsister hangs a garish oil painting over the spot where my carefully chosen black and white photograph had been. Richard supervises like a construction foreman, pointing toward the ceiling. Perfect height, don't you think? He says, not acknowledging my entrance. Dad, the word scrapes my throat. What the hell is this? Richard turns, his expression revealing no surprise, no guilt. Sienna, I thought you'd be at work until 6. Clearly, I step forward, trembling with rage. Why are strangers removing my belongings from my house? Vanessa runs her hand over her stomach in a theatrical gesture, though her pregnancy barely shows. We're just getting settled, Sienna. The movers needed space to bring in the nursery furniture. Getting settled? The words come out strangled. Richard waves his hand dismissively. We've decided this is best for everyone. Vanessa needs stability for the baby and you. Get out. I cut him off, my voice deadly quiet. All of you, get out of my house right now. Richard sighs like I'm being an unreasonable child. Sienna, be reasonable. Family takes care of family. Before I can respond, a police officer appears in the doorway. Everything all right here? We received calls about a disturbance. Officer, I say, never taking my eyes off Richard. These people are trespassing in my home and removing my possessions without permission. The officer looks between us. Ma'am, do you have proof of ownership? I pull out my phone, fingers shaking as I access my secure files. Here's my deed, closed last month, my name only on all documents. The officer reviews the screen, then turns to Richard. Sir, I'll need you and everyone not on the deed to vacate the premises immediately. The next 30 minutes blur as the house empties. The movers apologize profusely when they see my documentation. The random strangers' friends of Vanessa's apparently link out with mumbled excuses. When only Richard, Vanessa, and I remain in the driveway, my father steps closer, his voice a harsh whisper. You're being selfish, Sienna. Vanessa needs this more than you do. You forged my signature, I say, holding up the moving company paperwork. That's a crime. It's what family does for family, he insists, like breaking the law is reasonable when it benefits his preferred daughter. A silver Lexus pulls up, and Linda steps out, her face arranged in what she probably thinks is a conciliatory expression. Sienna, dear, let's all calm down and discuss this reasonably. You knew about this, I realize, seeing the guilt flash across her face before she masks it. You all planned this together. We only want what's best for everyone, Linda soothes. Vanessa's face crumples on cue, tears streaming perfectly down her cheeks. I have nowhere to go, Sienna. Think about the baby. The neighboring doors open. Mr. Peterson emerges with his phone visible in his hand. Mrs. Wilson stands with her arms crossed, watching. Their presence feels like unexpected reinforcements. A familiar car pulls up, and Emma from accounting steps out carrying 2 coffee cups. She surveys the scene with quick, assessing eyes before coming to stand beside me. "Everything okay, Sienna?" she asks, but her tone says she already knows it isn't. "They broke into my house and tried to move me out," I explain, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. I recorded the whole thing. Mr. Peterson calls from his yard, from the moment the moving truck arrived this morning, just in case it might be needed. A locksmith's van pulls up behind Emma's car. "I took the liberty," Emma explains quietly. "Thought you might need new locks today." The locksmith approaches, a kind-faced man with gray hair. "Had a sister-in-law try something similar with my brother's place years back." "Family, huh? Sometimes they're the ones you need the strongest locks against." As Richard, Linda, and Vanessa reluctantly retreat to their cars, I realize I'm not as alone as I thought. That night, after the locksmith changes every lock and a security company installs a state-of-the-art system, I sit alone in my living room. My possessions are mostly back inside, though chaotically arranged. Order will come tomorrow. I pick up an old photograph from the 14-year-old me with Richard. Before he left, before Linda, before Vanessa. I trace the smile on my younger face, a smile that believed in family. My mother's voice echoes from years ago. Family should lift you up, not tear you down. For a moment, doubt creeps in. Am I being selfish? Should I have offered some compromise? Then I remember Richard's dismissive wave, Vanessa hanging her art over mine, Linda's calm assumption that I would surrender my home, the coordinated deception. No, some boundaries cannot be compromised, especially with those who see you only as a resource to be harvested. I place the photo face down in a drawer and close it firmly. My phone buzzes against the kitchen counter, interrupting my Saturday morning coffee ritual. Vanessa's name appears on the screen, a rare sight that immediately puts me on alert. "We need to talk alone. No Richard, no Linda, just sisters." I nearly choke on my coffee. In 31 years, Vanessa has never once referred to us as sisters. Not when she was getting the college fund I never had. Not during the holidays when Richard showered her with gifts while I received practical afterthoughts. And certainly not last week when they tried to commandeer my home. "Cornerstone Cafe at 2 p.m., I reply after careful consideration. Public, busy, safe. I arrive 20 minutes early, selecting a table near the exit with clear sightlines to the parking lot. The barista nods in recognition. I've been coming here every Sunday for years to review spreadsheets and savor their dark roast in peaceful anonymity. Vanessa arrives 15 minutes late, floating through the door in designer sunglasses and carrying a purse that could pay a month of my mortgage. So much for the desperate housing situation Richard described. She scans the cafe until her eyes land on me, and something in her usual confident posture falters. "Thank you for meeting me," she says, sliding into the seat across from me. Her voice lacks its usual edge of superiority. "What do you want, Vanessa?" I keep my hands wrapped around my mug, creating a small barrier between us. She glances around, checking for familiar faces before leaning forward. "What I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this table." I make no promises. Something flashes across her face, desperation, maybe before she takes a deep breath. "My boyfriend isn't the baby's father." The statement hangs between us. I say nothing, waiting. With Vanessa, the first revelation is rarely the whole truth. "He had a vasectomy 2 years ago." Her voice drops to a whisper. "He doesn't know I know." "So you're pregnant by someone else and lying to him about it?" The pieces don't quite fit. Vanessa's perfectly manicured nails tap against the table. "It's more complicated than that." "Explain." "There are 3 men who could be the father." She says this with the same casual tone someone might use to discuss dinner options. Each one thinks they're the only possibility. I feel my expression harden. "And let me guess, each one is financially supporting you while you string them along?" Her smile is small but unmistakably proud. "Child support from 3 different men is better than from 1. It's just math, Sienna." The cafe noises recede as I process this information. The calculated precision of it all makes me sick. "This was Linda's idea, wasn't it?" Vanessa's eyes widen slightly. "How did you?" "Because this has her fingerprints all over it." I lean in. What I don't understand is why you need my house if you've got 3 men bankrolling you. Vanessa stirs her untouched latte. Mom's been teaching me since I was 13. Men are wallets with legs, she used to say. She states. In college. Dates? Escort work. Vanessa shrugs as if discussing summer jobs. Nothing traceable. High-end clients. Cash only. Dad never knew. I tried OnlyFans for a while, but the market's saturated. Each revelation lands like a physical blow. Not because I'm shocked by Vanessa's choices, but because I'm finally seeing the full picture of the family Richard left us for. The baby is insurance, she continues. Men will gladly pay for 18 years to preserve their reputations. But we need something permanent, something that can't walk away. My house, I say flatly. Your house, she confirms. Mom says property is the only security that lasts. Men leave, money disappears, but real estate holds value. I wonder if Richard knows that his wife views him as a temporary resource. Probably not. Vanessa's expression suddenly shifts, softening into something almost sisterly. Look, I'm just asking for temporary help. Once everything settles with the baby, we can work something out. The pivot is so smooth, I almost admire the technique. Almost. No. Dad will never forgive you if you turn me away, she says, her voice gentle but the threat crystal clear. Family takes care of family, right? I'll pay you back, I swear. I'll be eternally grateful. I see the exact moment Vanessa realizes her usual tactics aren't working. Her eyes harden, the false vulnerability evaporating like morning dew. This is why your own father couldn't love you, she hisses, mask slipping completely. You're cold, selfish, incapable of understanding what family means. I understand exactly what family means to you, Vanessa. A resource to be exploited. She stands abruptly, knocking her coffee directly into my lap. The hot liquid seeps through my clothes, but I don't flinch. You'll regret not helping family when you needed it, she spits, loud enough for nearby tables to turn and stare. Don't come crying to us when you're alone with nothing but your precious house. I remain seated as coffee drips from my blouse onto the floor. The cafe has gone quiet, all eyes on our drama. Vanessa storms out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. The barista hurries over with napkins, concern etched on her face. Are you okay? Fine, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Just family business. In my car, hands shaking, I record every detail of Vanessa's confession on my phone. The manipulation, the lies, the scheme to take my house, all of it preserved in my own voice. My phone rings. Richard, I let it go to voicemail. Sienna, what the hell did you do to upset Vanessa? Call me immediately. I end the recording and start the car. This isn't about hurt feelings anymore. This is about systematic deception, and the truth needs to come out, but strategically, on my terms. I composed the first email to my attorney before pulling out of the parking lot. Subject: documentation of ongoing harassment and attempted property fraud. The time for playing defense is over. After 30 years of letting Richard and his real family dictate the terms of our relationship, I'm finally ready to fight back. I slide into the dimly lit neighborhood bar, my practical heels clicking against the worn wooden floor. The scent of beer and decades-old cigarette smoke clings to the air despite the smoking ban enacted years ago. Richard sits in a corner booth, his broad shoulders hunched over the table. 3 empty glasses form a neat row before him, a silent testimony to his mood. The bartender catches my eye, her gaze flicking between me and Richard. She raises an eyebrow in silent question. I give her a small nod. I'm fine, I've got this. After the house invasion last week, I'm done with private confrontations. Public places mean witnesses, cell phones, safety. Richard doesn't stand when I approach. His eyes, my eyes in an older face, narrow as I slide into the booth across from him. You've turned your back on family, he says without preamble, fingers tightening around his 4th drink. The amber liquid sloshes dangerously close to the rim. After everything we've done for you. The laugh that escapes me holds no humor. Everything you've done for me? That's what we're calling 30 years of absence now? My purse sits heavy against my side, containing neatly typed notes I prepared last night, dates of missed birthdays. Holidays spent waiting for calls that never came. Graduation ceremonies attended alone. I don't reach for them. I don't need them. These facts are carved into my bones. This isn't about the past, Richard says, his voice a controlled rumble. This is about Vanessa needing help now. Your sister. Sister. I correct. My voice steady where his trembles with poorly contained rage. And what you're asking isn't help. It's surrender of everything I've worked for. Family sacrifices for family. The words sound rehearsed, a mantra he's repeated to himself on the drive over. I lean forward, resting my forearms on the table between us. Would you have given up your home for me at any point in the last 30 years? When Mom was working 2 jobs to keep our apartment? When I needed braces but we couldn't afford them? When I worked nights through college to avoid crushing debt? His silence stretches between us, a canyon of unspoken truths. Then, predictably, the deflection comes. That was different. Your mother made her choices. He drains half his drink in one swallow. This isn't about us. You're right about that much, I say. This is about a pattern. You've shown me exactly who matters in your world since I was 10 years old, watching your taillights disappear down our street. I was inconvenient, disposable, and now I'm suddenly valuable because I have something Vanessa wants. Richard's face flushes. You have no idea what it's like having a child depend on you. Actually, a voice interrupts. I'd like to talk about that dependency issue. We both turn. A young man in his late 20s stands beside our table, his hands jammed into the pockets of a worn leather jacket. Something about him strikes me as familiar, the jawline maybe, or the nervous set of his shoulders. Richard straightens, confusion creasing his brow. Do I know you? I'm Jake, he says, then clears his throat. Jake Marino, Vanessa's ex-boyfriend. Recognition clicks. I've seen his face in Vanessa's social media posts from last year, always in the background, always looking at her with the same devoted expression. What are you doing here? Richard demands, his tone shifting from confusion to hostility. Jake shifts his weight, glancing at me. Are you Sienna? I found you through your company website. I nod, cautious interest replacing my initial wariness. Jake turns back to Richard, squaring his shoulders. And you're her father? I am. Richard's voice hardens. And whatever you have to say about my daughter can be said to me directly instead of ambushing us in a bar. Fair enough. Jake pulls out a chair from a nearby table and sits, creating a triangle between us. I think you should know that I had a vasectomy 2 years ago, medical records to prove it. Which makes Vanessa's claim that I'm her baby's father a bit of a problem timeline-wise. Richard's face goes slack. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that Vanessa isn't just claiming I'm the father. Jake's voice remains steady, almost clinical. She's making the same claim to at least 3 other guys. We figured it out when one of them saw us arguing outside her apartment and approached me afterward. I watch Richard's face drain of color as Jake continues. We compared notes. Jake pulls out his phone, thumbs through it, then places it face up on the table. She's been running a pretty sophisticated operation. Each guy gets a different due date, different story about complications, different financial emergencies. Richard snatches the phone, scrolling through what appear to be screenshots of text conversations, his hands shaking visibly. This can't be right. Call her, I suggest quietly. Ask her directly. Put it on speaker. With trembling fingers, Richard pulls out his own phone and dials. The ring echoes in our small circle of silence. Daddy? Vanessa's voice, honey sweet, fills the space between us. Did you talk to Sienna? Is she going to... Vanessa. Richard cuts her off, his voice unsteady. I'm sitting here with Jake Marino. The silence that follows speaks volumes. Then comes Vanessa's voice, high and panicked. Jake is lying. Whatever he told you. Who's the father of your baby, Vanessa? Richard asks, each word dropping like a stone. Her voice rises, words tumbling over each other in desperate explanation. Richard's face contorts as 3 decades of carefully constructed reality crumble before my eyes. When he finally hangs up, Richard looks older than his 58 years. His shoulders sag as he stares at his hands spread flat on the table, wedding ring catching the dim bar light. I didn't know, he says finally, his voice barely audible over the background noise of the bar. I never thought. He drags a hand over his face. Linda always said you were difficult, that you rejected us, that you were cold, like your mother. I say nothing, watching as the father I once idolized confronts the possibility that he's been manipulated as thoroughly as he tried to manipulate me. Do you? He hesitates, then asks the first genuine question about my life I can remember hearing from him in 30 years. Are you happy, Sienna? In your life, I mean. The question catches me off guard. Part of me wants to seize this moment of vulnerability, this hairline fracture in his defenses. Another part, the 10-year-old still waiting by the window, remains wary, protective of the life I've built without him. I'm content, I answer finally, my tone measured. I've made peace with many things. But not all things. Not yet. The unspoken words hang between us. I never expected to invite Richard back into my home. Yet here he sits at my kitchen island, hands wrapped around a coffee mug, looking smaller, somehow diminished by the revelations about Vanessa. The silence between us stretches thin as spun glass, fragile and transparent. My phone buzzes for the 6th time this morning. Vanessa again. She's been texting me too, Richard says, glancing at his own phone. Claims Jake is lying about everything. Says he's just bitter about their breakup. I slide my phone face down on the counter. She sent me 12 messages yesterday, each one more desperate than the last. Richard's jaw tightens. He's aged 10 years in the past week, the lines around his mouth deeper, his eyes clouded with doubt. I keep wondering what else I've missed, what other lies I've believed. I study him carefully. For 30 years, this man accepted every story Linda and Vanessa fed him. Why the sudden clarity? Linda's yoga classes, he says suddenly, staring into his coffee. 3 times a week, like clockwork. 7 years now. Something in his tone makes me look up sharply. You think she's lying about yoga? I don't know what to think anymore. His laugh holds no humor, but she comes home without that post-exercise glow. No yoga mat. And last month she left her phone on the counter. A text came through from someone named Marcus about seeing her Thursday as usual. The admission hangs between us, heavy with implication. 3 days later, I'm parked across from a mid-rise apartment building in Oakwood Heights, 15 miles from the yoga studio where Linda claims to spend Tuesday afternoons. My hands rest on the steering wheel, camera ready on the passenger seat. The building's glass entrance reflects afternoon sunlight, making it easy to watch without being seen. Linda's silver Lexus pulls into a reserved space, not a visitor spot, a resident space. My heart pounds as I lift the camera. Through the zoom lens, I capture Linda stepping out, checking her appearance in the car window. She's wearing a form-fitting dress, not yoga pants. Her yoga mat is conspicuously absent. A man emerges from the building entrance, tall, silver-haired, wearing an expensive suit. When he embraces Linda, she melts against him with practiced familiarity. I press the shutter button repeatedly, documenting every moment as they disappear inside together. By week 3, the pattern is undeniable. I spread the evidence across my dining room table as Richard sits heavily in a chair. Photographs, credit card statements showing hotel charges from weekends when Linda claimed to be visiting her sister. Property records for the Oakwood Heights apartment, purchased 5 years ago under a limited liability company that traces back to Linda. This one was taken at Ristorante Milano last Friday, I say, sliding a particularly damning photo toward him. Linda and her silver-haired companion, his hand cupping her face as they lean across a candlelit table. Middle of the day, not even trying to hide. Richard's hands shake slightly as he arranges the photos in chronological order. 30 years, he whispers. 30 years. I watch him carefully, uncertain whether this final betrayal might break him completely. Instead, his spine straightens. We need to confront them. Both of them. You're sure? I need to see their faces when they can no longer deny the truth. His determination surprises me. This has to be my way, Sienna. I consider his request, then offer a strategic alternative. What about dinner? Neutral territory, but private enough. Somewhere we control the situation. Richard nods slowly. Yes, a family dinner. 2 days later, I make reservations at Emilio's, asking for the small private room in the back. I've hidden a voice recorder under the centerpiece. Richard has another in his jacket pocket. We take no chances with the truth this time. Linda arrives precisely at 7, perfectly composed in cashmere and pearls. Her smile freezes momentarily when she sees me sitting beside Richard, but she recovers quickly. Sienna, what a surprise. Her voice drips false warmth as she kisses Richard's cheek. She doesn't offer me the same courtesy. Vanessa follows minutes later, her makeup carefully applied to highlight a vulnerable innocence she's never possessed. She avoids looking directly at me. How was yoga this week? Richard asks Linda casually after we've ordered. Your instructor Marcus, isn't it? He must be very good. Linda's fork pauses halfway to her mouth. My instructor is Jennifer, darling. I've told you that. Really? Because I've been wondering. Richard takes a deliberate sip of water. How long have you been sleeping with him? The entire table freezes. Linda's face goes blank for one telling moment before outrage replaces shock. What are you talking about? This is absurd. Her voice rises sharply. Mom, what's going on? Vanessa looks between them, confusion giving way to calculation. Richard slides a single photograph across the white tablecloth. Linda stares at it, color draining from her face. I wasn't. She snatches up the photo, but Richard produces another. 30 years, Linda. 30 years of lies. You're spying on me? Linda sputters, turning to me with hatred. You did this. You've always tried to turn him against us. Us? Richard's voice cuts through her accusations. So you and Vanessa are a team against Sienna? Like when you planned to take her house? Vanessa's gasp is genuine this time. Mom, you promised he wouldn't find out about that part. The admission hangs in the air, damning and final. Around us, diners at nearby tables pretend not to listen while straining to hear every word. Linda's perfect facade crumbles completely. Those photos prove nothing, she insists, voice rising. You're misinterpreting everything. Richard silently slides his phone across the table. He presses play on a video Linda and her lover entering the apartment, his hand possessively on the small of her back. You followed me? Linda's face contorts with rage. This is invasion of privacy. Like when you invaded Sienna's home? Richard's voice remains steady. Or when you invaded our marriage vows for the past 7 years? Vanessa jumps to her mother's defense. Dad, you can't possibly believe this garbage. Mom would never. Stop, Vanessa. Linda cuts her off sharply. No, let her talk. I say, leaning forward. Let her explain why she told you I was selfish for not giving up my house when she has a perfectly good apartment she could have offered. Vanessa's mouth opens, then closes. Her eyes dart to her mother in panic. What apartment? Richard asks quietly. I slide another document across the table. The one Linda owns through her LLC. The same building where she meets Marcus. Heads turn at nearby tables. A waiter hovers uncertainly, then retreats. We were going to sell it, Vanessa blurts out, desperate to salvage something. That's why we needed Sienna's house temporarily. She reaches for her mother's hand. Tell him, Mom. Tell him it was just until the sale went through. Linda pulls her hand away, eyes narrowing at her daughter's betrayal. The apartment Marcus pays for? Richard asks, piecing it together. The one he thinks is your little love nest? He doesn't know about Vanessa's plan to sell it from under him, does he? Linda's silence is damning. You were never going to give it back, Richard says to Vanessa, realization dawning. You and your mother planned to take Sienna's house permanently. Around us, conversations have stopped entirely. Every eye in the restaurant watches our family implode. Richard sits perfectly still amid the destruction, a strange dignity settling over him as he watches the elaborate fiction of his life collapse. 30 years of deception unravel in public view, leaving nothing but hard truth between us. When a lifetime of lies finally unravels, who deserves forgiveness? I kneel in the fresh soil of my garden, pressing seedlings into the earth with dirt-stained fingers. 6 months since the invasion, and I'm finally reclaiming every inch of this house as mine. The late afternoon sun warms my back as I plant rows of lavender where Linda once stood declaring ownership of my property. There's poetry in that. I think, beauty growing where bitterness once stood. Inside, the house breathes differently now. I've rearranged furniture, repainted walls, replaced the doorbell that once announced unwelcome visitors. Small changes that erase their presence inch by inch. The security system's small green light blinks steadily in the corner of each room, a constant reminder that my boundaries are now technologically enforced. Last weekend, I spent hours reorganizing photo albums. Some pictures I removed completely, the forced family portraits where my smile never reached my eyes. Others I framed and hung prominently, Mom and me at my college graduation, Emma and I celebrating my house closing. For the first time since moving in, peace permeates every corner of this space. My sanctuary, recovered. The neighborhood grapevine keeps me updated on the aftermath, whether I want the information or not. Linda moved in with her lover, who quickly discovered that supporting her taste for luxury wasn't as exciting as their hotel rendezvous. She calls Richard weekly now, desperate for financial help he can no longer provide. Vanessa's pregnancy lie collapsed along with her other schemes. She's staying at a women's shelter after burning bridges with all her potential fathers. Without Richard's support and Linda's strategic planning, her manipulation tactics prove surprisingly ineffective against strangers who haven't been groomed to enable her. And Richard, that's the unexpected twist. The divorce proceedings exposed decades of financial deception. Linda had been systematically draining their accounts for years, preparing for an exit Richard never saw coming. Now he lives in a small one-bedroom apartment across town, working honest hours at an accounting firm that hired him despite the scandal. There's a dignity in his reduced circumstances that was absent in his previous prosperity. My therapist says I'm making exceptional progress. Twice monthly sessions have taught me that boundaries aren't selfish, they're necessary infrastructure for a healthy life. I've joined a support group for adult children of narcissistic parents, where stories worse than mine remind me how strong we all are, surviving and rebuilding. The neighbors who witnessed the invasion have become unexpected allies. Mrs. Keller brings homemade bread on Sundays. Mr. Peterson keeps an eye on my house when I travel for work. These connections feel more authentic than 30 years of forced family ties. I keep the letter I wrote to my younger self in my nightstand drawer. The one explaining that the little girl waiting by the window wasn't abandoned because she was unlovable, but because Richard couldn't recognize true value. I haven't decided if I'll ever send it to him. Some truths serve us better when they remain private. Every month since the collapse, a handwritten apology arrives from Richard, never demanding a response, never asking for money or shelter or forgiveness. Just acknowledgement of specific wrongs and the pain they caused. Last week brought a birthday card, the first in 25 years with nothing inside but, "I'm proud of who you've become without my help." We meet occasionally at Denny's neutral territory, with convenient exits and witnesses. Our conversations remain carefully bounded. We don't discuss Linda or Vanessa. We don't pretend decades of absence can be erased with coffee and pie. We simply practice being two adults who share DNA and damaged history, searching for whatever honest connection might be possible. I've established clear terms for our tentative relationship. No surprise visits. No financial discussions. No attempts to make me responsible for his emotional well-being. Holidays remain mine to spend with the family I've chosen, not the one I was born into. Richard accepts these boundaries without complaint, seeming almost relieved to have clear guidelines after a lifetime of Linda's shifting expectations. Tonight, I'm hosting a small gathering, friends from work, neighbors, members of my support group. The doorbell rings precisely at 7. Through the security camera, I see Richard standing on the porch, a small gift bag in hand, waiting patiently to be admitted or turned away according to my choice. I open the door. "Thank you for including me," he says, handing me a carefully wrapped package containing a garden trowel with my name engraved on the handle. Throughout the evening, he makes no attempts to dominate conversations or claim unearned authority. He listens more than he speaks, asks genuine questions of my friends, refills water glasses without being asked. As guests begin to leave, he helps clear dishes without presumption, then pauses at the kitchen counter where this all began. "You've taught me what family should be," he says quietly. "Not ownership, not obligation, just respect and choices freely made." I load the dishwasher, considering his words. When I finally look up, I'm surprised by the smile that feels natural on my face. In this house that I built, with boundaries I've defended and relationships I've chosen, I am finally completely home.